Hey, it's Veronica. This is Content Jefe. This is your friendly catch up with the highs and lows of being a content creator and running a business online. And we just did a live streaming on our YouTube channel, and we thought that it would be like really, really cool to bring you inside that live because it was fire.
Yes, and it was all about podcast editing, and we were all jazzed up with our audience there. So it was super valuable. So we're going to dedicate this episode to a summarized replay of that event and enjoy.
Hot Sounds Cool presents Content Jefe, the podcast that helps online business owners make better content and more money. Let's Jefe up. Hello and welcome to day 2 to Profit and Podcast. This event is for podcast editors or for aspiring podcast editors. And this is day 2, and we're going to be talking about how do you become a podcast editor. We are going to also talk about marketing and client acquisition. And we're talking about certifications and building your portfolio.
We're going to talk about the training that's out there, what kind of equipment and apps you would need to be a podcast editor. This is truly a masterclass in all things podcast editing, but it's also an introduction into a very unique creative professional job that you can get, and a way that you can sort of transform your life completely and enter into a new profession and a new exciting creator economy situation. But with that, why don't we get to the first point, the first thing that we want to cover about becoming a podcast editor. And that is the training. What kind of training is out there? So if you decide this is something I want to do, and you've also realized that just because you may start as a podcast editor doesn't mean that you're going to be stuck podcast editing for the rest of your life. It's a wonderful entry point into any imaginable type of creative gig and work that you can be doing. You know, myself, I started I didn't start as a podcast editor, but years ago, I was editing podcasts and videos as a profession, and now it's led to many other professional endeavors. And so it's just a really cool entry point because the skills that you learn as a podcast editor lend themselves perfectly to become a video editor, to become a podcast manager, to basically run and be an executive of a creative agency. I mean, it just goes on and on, the opportunities it provides. So you're convinced of that, I know, because you were here on Thursday. But now that you're convinced, Veronica, what kind of training exists?
So I would say there are 2 types of training or different ways that you can get to be a podcast editor. And the first one, it will be the DIY route. And that's just to learn how to edit podcasts from YouTube videos or any other free resources that are out there. The problem with this is that the information that it's out there is very limited. We were discussing about the videos that we have found on YouTube and how you make videos for YouTube with certain keywords so you can get more views, and you cover tips and things that are superficial, and if you want to go deeper, that's where you will be interested in finding education somewhere else, something like more in-depth when it comes to podcast editing. So you have that route, and then you also have the route of going and seeking your education the way that we know, that we millennials know, and that's just like going to maybe a sound engineering school or an audio engineering school, or finding a vocational program on a community college and things like that. I went on the rabbit hole of trying to find training specifically for podcast editors, and I couldn't find anything. In fact, like I was just so frustrated. Like after, I spent a whole hour trying to find, and I couldn't find any kind of training. It's really a shame that that we can't find a training. And we want to do this thing, but how do we go about? And so how, what the editors that are working right now, how do they get to be podcast editors? Well, and I think you can elaborate a little bit more on this, is they have they bring those skills from, maybe they were in audio production. They were working in audio production. They have
Yeah.
a background in an audio engineer.
They were a musician.
They were
and
musicians, and
Yeah.
they understand, how to edit audio, and even then they can bring. They were not trained to edit voice,
Yeah, edit narrative voices.
voices. So that's a little bit different. And I feel like you should be talking about this because you know more.
Well, so currently 2 options that a lot of people would go for, and they are trying to get more with the times, is Full Sail University in Florida and the Conservatory of Arts and Sciences in Arizona. Very expensive degrees there. And yes, you're going to cover a lot more than just podcast editing. You're going to cover music production, film production. You're going to have to learn about all very detailed and a lot of theory, a lot of theoretical stuff that, and having worked with engineers who've come from both of those schools, they get to the recording studios, they get to doing the work. And it's like, man, I wish I would have just got started doing the work. So it's fine. It's hard to find the balance. And the other way that a lot of editors learn is they just start. And when you have to figure something out because you have a client and they're asking you to do something, that's the best way to learn, is just to start. But then how do you know if you're providing the industry standards? How do you know if you're using these tools correctly? Is there a correct way to use these tools?
And efficiently.
And efficiently too. How do you know if you're using the right software so that you're not spending extra hours every day, every week, or whatever it is with each particular client on every project? So when it comes to editing as a profession and to make money, time is very much money because, and we advise our members not to, or the students and people we train and everything, not to charge by the hour, because we find it works. Sometimes if you charge by the hour, you wind up being micromanaged more by your client. They want to know why it didn't take you a long time, or why it took you too long. Why is this taking you 4 hours? Why is this taking you 6 hours? Why should I have to pay for that? It's better just to kind of calculate for yourself how many hours you'll be spending, and so how much you would charge for the whole project. That seems to be a better, less stressful way of working. But still, time is money, because in the example of a podcast episode, if you charge $150 per episode, if you can chop your time down to an hour or 2 hours per episode, then you're making $100 an hour, which is incredible, especially for a vocational creative type endeavor. And so that's the thing. Also, when you go to these creative schools or vocational programs, community colleges in your local area, you'll find that they don't have the business side of things, and you're kind of on your own. Now, when it comes to like the recording studio days, and things have changed a little bit, they will hook you up with free internships. So then you go and you work free internships for recording studios or for production companies, and they take advantage of you that way. Hollywood has since changed, and now they have to pay their interns. Thank God. In my day, when I was doing the interning thing in Hollywood, I was working for free. So, basically it's hard. And what we're saying is that we have this new booming creator economy with all of these new amazing creative opportunities for us, and yet there's no real training available. So it's a little bit frustrating, but that's what training is out there. Of course, and then there's training. Our training is out there as well. And this is, if you haven't guessed, what has inspired us to build the Podcast EditLab. And if you haven't heard us talk about the Podcast EditLab yet, we're super excited about it. But we're saving that till the end of this presentation, where we're going to talk about certification, how you get certified, and we'll introduce you to our program. And we'll introduce you to our first batch of editors that took the program, the last cohort, and show you kind of what we have in mind and what we're trying to build to alleviate this problem and to help creative professionals to skip that rite of passage phase, to be able to come out of the gates and charge what they're worth and charge a good, honest rate right from the beginning, and to also have the confidence that they are using the plugins and the effects correctly, and that they are providing the industry standards and the outputs and the deliverables to their clients in a way that's professional and sleek and worth a lot of money. So, but with that, we can move on to which equipment and software do you need to do podcast editing?
That's a question that everybody who is interested in getting into podcast editing is like, do I have to spend a lot of money on an equipment?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to get a sophisticated or a powerful computer or laptop, or what is it? What do I need to start?
Yeah, it's true. How much is it going to cost me? And this is also one of the reasons that we think podcast editing is the best place to start and in the creator economy, because it's the least expensive or the most affordable. And so I'm not really going to go into the weeds with this too much, but I will give you some good tips and some good takeaways. And I'll do that by explaining that podcast editing process in general is 2 phases. It's the cleanup phase. That's the organization phase. That's when you cut out the ums and uhs. That's when you decide where the intro and outro are going to come in, and you maybe add music and sound effects. And then there is the shine, or the processing phase, you could think of it as, where you process the audio with plugins, or is what it is now, digital plugins that emphasize the audio, correct bad things about the audio, make the audio sound beefy and delicious. And we're talking about things like compression and EQ, de-essers, noise reduction, and those are going to be the main ones that go on your chain, as they call it. You're going to do a compressor, a de-esser, noise reduction, and EQ on every podcast mix. And then on the master side of things, you also would use a limiter. All that stuff sounds fancy. It's actually very easy. And there are tools continuing to be developed that make this process even more intuitive and easy to understand. The problem is, though, is a lot of these tools, even the AI tools and stuff, when you can just use a single knob to adjust audio, it totally negates the necessity to understand what is actually happening to the audio. But that's okay, because if it sounds good and if it isn't broke, don't fix it, right? Well, so in that cleanup phase, you would apply those effects. And so the software or equipment that you would need would be a digital audio workstation to do all of that in. And then you're going to need these plugins. Usually the best plugins are going to come from a third-party company, they call it, or just from a plugin-specific company. And one of the best of those that exists now is Waves. And we're really excited to be affiliates of Waves now and been in communication with them, which is really cool. And we're hoping to continue our collaboration with them even more. But Waves is a really cool company. And just to express like how excited I am to be working with Waves is it's been over 20 years that I've been using their plugins. And so to, brag to my son that, hey, Waves sponsoring our channel, it's pretty exciting for us, but they make the best plugins. And I'm not saying that because we're affiliations with them. All you have to do is go try their plugins and you'll know that that's the truth. And so what's so cool about this, when you are trying to figure out what equipment you need, is that which DAW you choose doesn't matter as much. And that all you really need to do is learn the fundamentals of these plugins that I mentioned. Learn the fundamentals of the second phase of podcast editing. Learn how to do all of that processing. Learn how compressors work and stuff like that. And then those plugins, they work in any digital audio workstation, and they also work in video editing apps as well. So these same Waves plugins, and they go for about $30 to $40 each. Or you can have access to every Waves plugin for like $250 a year or something like that. They will work in Premiere Pro. They'll work in Final Cut Pro. They work in any digital audio workstation. They work in GarageBand. They work everywhere. So they work in Reaper. So Reaper's my favorite. Reaper's what I would recommend to get started with if you're looking for just tell me what to use. I would say use Reaper and use Descript and use Waves plugins. And that's exactly what we teach in our program. That's what I'm currently teaching to all of our students that's the trifecta. Those 3 together are very powerful. Descript is powerful, especially in that first phase of podcast editing, which is the cleanup phase, because Descript allows you to organize and play with audio recordings in a way that's very intelligent and utilize artificial intelligence to speed up your process to be able to make those critical decisions about how you should remove the ums and uhs, how you should organize the podcast episode. And these things are very artistic. They're not just like, there's not just a way that you do the same person isn't going to edit the one podcast episode the same. And, there's all sorts of subtle things that podcast editors do that you would never realize. For example, they may be listening out for when the host tends to sound a little arrogant. And there could be a couple sentences where the host said something that comes off as a little arrogant or a little, I don't know, pompous or something. They can decide to cut that out or gear the conversation in a different way. And as a podcast editor, those are the kind of things that you also can sell to your clients and explain to them what exactly it is that you're doing, and that they have you in their corner to protect them, to make sure that they don't say anything they don't want to say, to make them sound more intelligible, and to organize their thoughts in a way that are better for their audience. So that was longer than I anticipated it being, but it's just so exciting.
But
and
it was
for me
fun
to talk
and
about.
juicy.
It was juicy?
Good.
You thought so?
It was juicy.
Okay,
yeah.
good. And then
It answered my question.
we've got, before we move on to Veronica's part, which is now we're going to get into marketing. So, okay, I know that I need some education. I know this is what I need to learn. This is the equipment and the software that I'm going to use, which, by the way, is a laptop computer. Reaper is a one-time $60, and you can use it for free for a long time to try it out. Just go to Reaper, like the Grim Reaper.com. And Descript is a monthly subscription, pretty affordable. I think it's cheaper than Netflix, if I'm not mistaken, or around the same price, right? So there you go. And then now, how though are we going to get clients?
Yeah.
How are we going to charge How are we going to charge good money for clients?
So whether you decide to take the podcast EditLab with us or not, I want you to stay with me, because this is going to change your everything. This is going to change the way, if you're already a podcast editor, or if you're thinking about becoming a podcast editor soon, this is going to get you faster to the results that you want to get, which is ultimately start making money and get those fun clients. And it's the marketing and client acquisition and sales. If you are going to be a freelancer, if you're going to have your own editing business, then you need to learn about marketing and sales. If you are going to apply for jobs, then you also need to learn about marketing, because you're marketing yourself and you need to use the right language. And pen and paper, like, how do you bring clients? Like, what's the number one thing that I want you to take away from this presentation? And I'm being selfish. None of what you said and what Steven said is important. It's my thing. It's like, how do you refine your marketing message so it's effective? And this is one of the mistakes that I have seen podcast editors do, and not only podcast editors, video editors and freelancers, is that they speak the language of the industry. And you are not in the business of selling to older podcast editors or to older video editors. You're in the business of selling your services to the people who need your services, which are the people who have the problem. In this case, I want you to take podcast editing off of my hands. So what do you do? Like, what are the points that you need to touch on your marketing message, or how do I write my marketing message? You need to have 4 things or 4 points in your marketing message. And the first one will be the problem that you're solving. The second one will be to position your service as the solution to the problem. And then the process or roadmap that they need to follow for them to sign up with you, or for them to alleviate that problem quickly, and a call to action. And this can be just as simple as, the problem that you're solving. I can spend so much time talking about, like, the ways that you should not present the problem. Don't say, I'm a podcast editor with, so many months or years of experience. Or that I specialize in, I apply all these plugins, or I do all of this. Don't talk to me about that. The problem that you're solving is, as I said, is that you are taking a problem off of their hands, and I want you to appeal to emotions. Imagine the person who's overwhelmed, who has this idea to have a podcast, who just wants to get into the creative side of making a podcast, but they're sitting there overwhelmed trying to figure out how to edit their own podcast. They're spending hours or maybe days, or they're stuck at that point because they can't get a podcast editor. So appeal to those emotions. And then you say, well, do you know that a skilled podcast editor can take podcast editing off of your hands? And not only that, then you add all of the good things that you do. You'll give your podcast a refresher, a glow up. It will blow your listeners' minds and all of the things. But I want you to speak their language, not your language from the podcast editing standpoint. And then you talk about the process, which is like, okay, the first thing that you need to do is that you need to fill out this questionnaire with information about your project. And then you can have different questions. And then after that, we set up a time so we can meet and talk about your project and your expectations and your timelines and all that. And then after that, I send you a proposal, and then you send me the raw files, and boom, everything is done. So I think this is important for everybody to understand. This is a process that is super simple, that if you start applying it right away, then I can guarantee you, like you will start getting clients.
So it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
So sales, all this, it doesn't have to be complicated, and prospecting it's not slimy. You don't have to like manipulate anyone. That's really exciting. It's really easy to get clients. And then
it's just a matter of getting super clear on your message. And then that message will be a match for the person who's looking for that service. But you need to be clear.
Yeah. And then really quick, I'm going to go, we're recording this, so I'm going to go restart that real quick.
And then after you have worked on your message, then you may have the question, okay, like, what do I do? Where do I display this message? And that's where you need to decide what type of marketing you're going to do, whether you are going to do content marketing or whether you are going to create your profile, a freelance platform, cold reach, or you're going to run ads. But every single time you are going to pitch to a client, or on your website, on your social media, on any point of how do you, I had a name for this, but any place that you know that people are going to be checking you out, you need to be displaying this message very loud and clear. And on Thursday, I touched on the communications that you will have with your clients, and how I just want you to be mindful of making those communications real and thoughtful, and not to throw a chat GPT email. It pays off when you take the time to really look into that person's content and talk to them directly and bring some details to the communication, because it's like, oh, okay, this person took the time to find out what I do, to find out details about me, not in a creepy way, but just make your communications personal and not just a general email or a communication that you have.
And that's really great. And then the other thing that Veronica touched on was like channels, maybe is the one word you could have called it. So it's like, yes, getting clients, if you're going to be a freelancer, is going to take some work and some prospecting, you could call it. Prospecting is actually really fun. You're just trying to find your dream clients. And the internet is vast and unlimited. And so if there's any excuses that people have about, well, there's not enough people looking for that, or the market's not big enough for that, or I don't think my services would be needed. We can just set the record straight on those excuses, that they don't exist, because we all can agree on that the internet is this vast open space where every possible client is out there.
The opportunity is out there. You just have to go out.
Yeah, you have to go out there and get there. So cold emails, you would hear it called in sales terms, and that's just finding people's email addresses from various places. There's podcast directories. There's like Podchaser you could go to. There's all sorts of places. YouTube, you can find people's emails there. And then, of course, having your own online presence. And so when you talk about just different types of marketing, I know that you covered that. You could start building your own content marketing strategy, which is where you make your own content. That's a long-term game. but that's a really good investment of time. And then you're building your own personal brand and stuff. And then you're also using your new talents towards making your own content. And then, there's also those freelance platforms like Upwork and everything else like that. Those are great places, I think, to get started. And there you can have some good results that way, because even on Upwork, then you can have this strong marketing message that Veronica is talking about. So
another resource would be podcast managers or podcast coaches, because they will have the direct contact with clients, and clients are in constant need of new editors. So that will be another way.
And then also with, a certification with a strong portfolio, which is what we're going to get into next, you can approach companies and be an in-house podcast editor. So if you want to go work for Wondery or Radiotopia or NPR, you would also need to display where your education comes from, and you would need to display more specifically a unique marketing message to them, because they get a lot of resumes and stuff, and you studied at NYU for whatever it was, but like, give me a marketing message. What problem are you solving for my company? There's a reason we're hiring, right? Yeah. So it's the same principles that go into that. Yeah. And
I understand that the word marketing can be intimidating, and it sounds like you have a lot to learn. But ultimately, marketing is that communication that you will have with your prospects that has to be real, that you are talking to a human who has needs and who has problems and needs solutions. So it's just as simple as that, don't forget who you are addressing, and don't get too overcomplicated or too technical, or we tend to I want to show off all that I know. That people don't care about us. As people, we don't care about how much somebody knows. We care about them having the ability to solve our problems.
Yeah.
So now there are two other ways that you can kind of get faster to building your authority and to start signing up clients, and that's certification and having a portfolio. Certification is really cool, because what you do is that if you take a program that has a certification, then that certification is going to vouch for the skills that you acquire during that program. It's gonna tell your clients, it's gonna tell the company or the job that you're trying to get, is gonna tell them, okay, this is what this person learned. We vouch for those skills, for what he's representing, because he or she went through the program, and this is the certification exam. And yes, this person has all these skills. And they can also leverage the reputation, and they can also leverage the experience, and they can also leverage the authority in the industry. So that's why certifications are so important. And also having a portfolio is important if you're going to start reaching out to clients right away, because they wanna have a taste. They want to hear a sample of the work that you've done. And it's important that you have all that ready, that maybe you have a portfolio with a podcast trailer. Maybe you have maybe a lot of before and after you process the audio with your taste, with your tools, with the skills that you learn, so you can really show that what you're capable of and your talents. So that's why a portfolio is important. And portfolio that sounds good, that looks good, that is presented in a certain way, that has the right marketing message.
That has the right marketing message right on the top.
It's going to give you the confidence, baby, to reach out to, celebrities if you want to.
And so this is all of this, and how we started this presentation talking about what training is out there is what has led us, and really the whole reason we got into business was to build a certification program for creative professionals. And so we have built the we call it the Podcast EditLab, and this is our first program. In 2024, we're going to be also getting into video editing. We hope to get into community and social management as well. But this one is just our baby, and we're so excited about it. This is our certified editors page. And this was so fun for us to have this after all of these years. We've had hundreds of students inside of our teaching people how to start podcasts. We had a program that we did with Nick Nimmin, like I mentioned earlier, smart podcasting on YouTube. We do private coaching, and we've private coached a lot of people how to start podcasts. But it's only been recently we've been really focusing on the creative professional, which is just ultimately what we wanted to do as a school, as the Pod Sound School. So this page is really fun, and we're really excited about it because it's a place where we can show off our certified editors. And this is the first batch. These are our pioneer editors. And you can check out this page by going to podsoundschool.com/certified. And it's one of the main tabs on our homepage now. And we get a lot of monthly and daily visits to our website. So we're excited that this is a place that we can show off our editors, and then you can click on their portfolio. This is something we're constantly going to be expanding and improving on and making it even more cool. The portfolios right now just go to their specific portfolio links that they've decided what they want here. But we're eventually going to have a standalone portfolio page with each editor. Lots of improvements here that our team's working on. This is, I guess, what you could almost even call the beta version. And these are our pioneer editors because they were in our first cohort. And not only did we help them to become certified and refine their skills, Lincoln and Stephanie, for example, here, and also Clément were video editors and video editors have a really hard time finding the training to be certified in audio editing. And so when you get asked by clients, like, are you putting my stuff at the right industry levels? Can you improve my sound? It sounds like crap. They wanted the confidence to actually know how to apply these effects in the right way. So not only did we help them get certified, but they helped us to refine and improve and build the program. And so that's really cool. There's also a place here, certification details, like Veronica was mentioning, where people who are looking for editors and can learn what our certification's all about and what does it mean to be Pod Sound School certified. And these are the requirements. It's a pretty intensive program. We teach about the client-centric approach, and so they have to take an exam. They have 2 final projects at the end of the 12-week program. So it's a really cool program that has a guarantee behind it to get you your first client by the completion of the program, which is pretty cool. And that is what you would call certification, and that's how you can get certification. So currently, this is the only certification for podcast editing, vocal editing, and audio production in the creator economy that you can find online or anywhere. We haven't been able to find one. So it's really unique in that way, and it's the early stages for it. And that is the program. You can find out about the program itself by going to podcastingsmart.com/EditLab. And our next cohort is starting on September 4th. So our next group of editors starts on September 4th. And we're going to spend 12 weeks with them going through the program. And then at the end of those 12 weeks, they will be certified editors. So before the beginning of 2024, they're going to have their first clients, which is pretty cool. And you could be one of those, and we'd love to help you with that and be in your team and be on your corner. And then finally, just to tell you about this program a little bit more, this program is really unique and really fun because it's not only is it sort of have all the fun traditional curriculum-based stuff that you find in an online course, meaning that there are weekly assignments that we give you to work on. There's actual lessons and video lessons like you would find in an online course. And you have that, and you'll have lifetime access to all of that like you do with any of our other online courses that we've developed. But you also have this group coaching and community aspect to it, meaning that once a week we meet in a virtual classroom, similar to an environment like this. We meet and we discuss, we answer your questions, we share, hot seats with the students, and we share each other's work. And it's really this lab, where we all are learning and crafting our own abilities. Really cool. And we have so much fun.
It's a hands-on learning, do as you learn.
Do as you learn program.
Which it makes me like really, really excited because I'm one of those that get very anxious. I just need to get in the, down in the trenches and then start doing and start making things happening for me. So if you have that personality, like my personality, then this is perfect for you because it's not only theory. It's like, okay, let's open up Reaper. Let's start doing this, or let's create this together.
Yeah. And the philosophy kind of behind the course and the material of the course is one that we're also very excited about in terms of helping creative professionals. And that's because myself, having gone to film school, having gone through some very rigorous programs, Veronica also somehow managing to complete law school in a second language.
What do you mean somehow? Because I'm
in a second
brilliant.
language. I know, but in a second language. And I remember
brilliant.
helping you study. It was like not even English. So it was actually like a third language. And I think anyone who has gone through traditional education in that way, it gets a little, I don't know, it's kind of, there's so much theory. So this has led us to be what we call action oriented. And that's sort of the philosophy behind all of our programs. And it's that we minimize the amount of theory. We bring the theory to the absolute minimum. And so from day one, your very first assignment, you're actually working on real podcast episodes. And then the theory, we sneak the theory in with those assignments. So you learn the theory as you're doing, as it relates to what you actually will be doing. You don't have to learn a bunch of theory that isn't necessarily going to help you in the long run with your day-to-day work. And that also tackles the portfolio issue that a lot of people have. So we talk to people all the time, well, I don't know how to even approach a client because I don't have a portfolio yet. I haven't edited any episodes yet. I know how to edit. I'm good at it, but I don't have a portfolio. So we solve that problem because by the time you come out, all of your assignments are actually, we crafted them to be your portfolio work. And Veronica mentioned one of them. It's my favorite assignment is a noise reduction test where you have a before and after. So you have a little before and after noise reduction test on your website and a bunch of really impressive actual real podcast episodes that you edit yourself, which is cool. And so there's all the information here on the page that you can go to, again, podcastingsmart.com/EditLab to learn more about it. And we would love it if you would be in this cohort. And this is something we'll be doing biannually, a couple times a year only. And most of our programs are going to be like that, at least in the foreseeable future. And so, make sure you get in on this program. Don't wait. You could wait until January is likely when we'll be opening the program again. You can wait until 2024, which would be great. That's fine if you need to, but why not have your first client by then? Why not be able to have a side hustle that's bringing in a couple of extra $1,000 every month? And then, to where by 2024, you have a few clients, you can actually quit your day job and just do this now and work from everywhere and have all the benefits that come from being your own boss, doing things on your own terms. And then, as you can see, I kind of walk through the snapshots of what each week includes. And how we do it. And the last weeks, 11 and 12 are really fun weeks because that's the certification weeks. And there we actually meet one-on-one with each member and we talk about your specific situation. What's really exciting is some of our students will be ready because it does take a little bit of bravery to get out there and actually start prospecting. But some of our members are ready by week 7 to actually have their first client. And that's what I'm really hoping for because then if you have a client while you're in the program, we can use your client's work and we can actually, as a group, we can kind of work on that work together and edit it together. So this is some really cool hot stuff, obviously. And that's really everything from me. I don't, that I have to say about it.
No, I just think that if you feel like you're ready, if you feel like this is something that you want to do, I don't think you should wait. I think we've all been there in that position when we know that we want something and we just sit on the decision. We don't take any action. And then life gets busier. More commitments will come.
The time passes anyway.
The time will pass anyway. So you just have to commit. You just have to know that for 12 weeks, you're going to be hanging out with us. You're going to be hanging out with us every week. And that we are going to have fun and that we're going to get frustrated together. And that we're going to go through all of the emotions and it's going to be fun. And then by the end of 12 weeks, then you will have the solid understanding of what a podcast editor is, how to have a business that is going to bring in extra money, that is going to bring money for you at the end of this year and the beginning of 2024, that is going to be a career that is going to get you into the creative profession, the creative industry. And that is just the beginning, because from there, then you may decide that you want to add some video editing skills, or that maybe you want to expand the services that you offer. And then you're going to meet a lot of people, that you're going to be involved in really cool projects that you will be happy that your name is going to be on that display on that project.
Yes.
And
it's work that you can feel proud of, that you can feel fulfilled about, interesting work, and you get to choose the clients that you take on. Really, you're the one that they should be prospecting you by the time you're a Pod Sound School certified editor.
Yeah.
Right. And so you get to pick and choose. That's the idea. And you get to skip the rite of passage phase. And what we mean by that is a lot of times and we did it ourselves when we first started the Pod Sound School, is we worked pro bono for our first client because we didn't have the confidence. We felt like we needed to work for free for someone to work. And we did a podcast launch with and wonderful client, and we're still very close to her. But we launched her podcast, and we were and that's how we developed one of our first programs, which was the Smart and Sexy podcast launch, which was a signature program of ours that we have for a long time about how to launch a podcast. But what I'm saying is, we could have skipped that rite of passage phase had we had a program like this for marketing. Had we had a program, and we don't want you to ever have to do pro bono work, or to be charging $50 an episode or $20 an episode, something like that. No, you're going to, right out of the gates, you're going to charge $150 minimum per episode if you're working as a freelancer, or you're going to have the expertise that you need to immediately apply for jobs.
Because it's not only about learning the skills of how to be a very good professional podcast editor. It's something about it's something about, we will be building your confidence. So you could go out there in the world and charge what you deserve because of the time and effort and the skills that you have acquired, and the things that you know how to do, and the service that you're providing.
So what'd you think? Pretty cool. Are you going to be in the September cohort of the Podcast Edit Lab, or are you going to wait till 2024? If you're listening or watching this episode before the September cohort already started, don't worry. We do the Podcast Edit Lab biannually, so you can always catch the next seat. But if you caught this before September 4th, don't wait until 2024. If you join in September, you'll have your first client before 2024, which would mean you're on the road to some really exciting new opportunities.
Yeah, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. You can find us on Instagram and send us a DM, and we can chat there, and I can send you all of the information if you're interested.
Yeah. And until next time, hasta la vista, Jefe.
Bye, Jefe.